All right, so today we're going deep on something that might not seem like the most riveting topic, but trust me, it's fascinating once you start peeling back the layers. We're talking hair loss.
Very Warfra.
Yep, hair loss. And we're diving into some excerpts from Health Chronicles. I'll say I learned a ton just going through this material. Like, did you know that over 80 million people in the US alone are dealing with hair loss?
80 million.
80 million. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire population of the UK. It really hits you. This is a way bigger issue than many realize.
It's huge, and it's definitely not just about, a few extra hairs on your brush. It goes way deeper than that.
It really does. The Health Chronicles episode, they did a great job highlighting the emotional side of this. I mean, it can be devastating for people.
Absolutely. It affects your self-esteem, how you see yourself, how to interact with the world.
Yeah, and the episode featured some personal stories that, honestly, they were pretty powerful. There was this young guy, he talked about how losing his hair, it was like losing a part of his identity. He was avoiding going out, felt so self-conscious all the time.
It's so relatable, though. For a lot of guys, especially if it starts early, it's a huge blow to their confidence.
Exactly. And it's not just men, of course. I remember that story of the new mom. She was struggling with postpartum hair loss.
Yeah.
It got so bad she's basically isolating herself, feeling super anxious about it all.
Postpartum hair loss is a whole other dimension, isn't it? The hormonal shifts, the stress of a newborn, it's a lot to handle.
It's a lot, and it's often overlooked. People just assume it's normal after pregnancy, but the emotional impact is real. And then, remember that hairstylist, he was talking about how after the pandemic, he saw this huge increase in clients coming in with hair loss. It was like all that collective stress, it manifested physically.
The pandemic was a major stressor for so many people. I mean, it makes sense it would show up in different ways, including hair loss.
So we've got all this anecdotal evidence, but let's get into the science a bit. What are the actual causes? What's going on here? I mean, genetic has to be a big part of it, right?
Genetics are definitely a major player, particularly with what's called androgenetic alopecia, which is a fancy way of saying male or female pattern baldness. That classic receding hairline or sitting on the crown.
Well, you basically inherit those patterns from your family.
Flower.
You inherit eye color or height.
Exactly. If your parents or grandparents experience hair loss, there's a good chance you might too.
Okay, so genes load the gun, so to speak.
Yeah.
But our lifestyles, those have got to be the trigger, don't they?
Absolutely. Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with stress. Jobs, relationships, the news cycle, it all adds up. And that chronic stress, it messes with our hormones, our sleep, everything. And hair loss is often a side effect.
Stress, lack of sleep, bad diet, it's all connected. It's like those public service announcements, but for your hair.
Exactly. It's all about those healthy habits or lack thereof. But let's not forget about medical conditions. They can play a huge role too.
Right. The medical conditions. Give us the rundown.
Well, hormonal changes are a biggie, particularly for women. Conditions like PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, or thyroid issues, those can throw your hormones out of whack and trigger hair loss. And then there's alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disorder where your body is actually attacking your hair follicles.
Wow, so we've got genetics, lifestyle, medical conditions,
A
a lot to keep track of. And then the episode also mentions the environment as a factor, like what's going on there.
We often don't realize how much our environment affects our hair. Pollution, for example. All those tiny particles in the air, they can build up on your scalp, clog follicles, and inhibit hair growth. And then there are the harsh chemicals in some hair products. Here are those sulfates and parabens they tout as volumizing or whatever.
Right, right. And those can damage your hair over time, making it weaker and more prone to breakage. So it's like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
Genetics, lifestyle, medical conditions in the environment, all conspiring to make us lose our hair.
Ooh.
So what can we do about it? There's got to be some solutions out there.
Here are. The good news is there are actually a ton of options these days, from medical treatments to lifestyle changes to natural remedies.
Let's start with the medical stuff. The episode mentioned a couple of medications, Rogaine and Propecia, right? Those names ring a bell. They're not really sure what they are or how they work.
Sure, Rogaine, that's the brand name for minoxidil. It's a topical treatment, meaning you apply it directly to your scalp. Expect to work by increasing blood flow to the hair follicles, which can stimulate growth.
So you just rub it on, hope for the best.
Pretty much, but consistency is key. You have to use it regularly, and it can take a few months to see results. And like any medication, there can be side effects. Some people experience scalp irritation, dryness, that kind of thing.
Right. And what about Propecia?
Propecia, that's finasteride. It's a pill you take orally, and it works by blocking a hormone called DHT, which is linked to hair loss, especially in men. It can be pretty effective, but again, there are potential side effects, so it's really important to talk to your doctor before starting any new medication.
Makes sense. So we've got topical solutions, oral medications.
Yeah.
What about those more high-tech treatments you hear about, like hair transplants?
Hair transplants are becoming increasingly popular. They're basically a surgical procedure where they take hair follicles from one part of your scalp, usually the back or sides where hair tends to be thicker, and transplant them to areas where you're experiencing thinning or baldness.
So it's like taking hair from where you have it and moving it to where you need it.
Exactly. The results can be pretty impressive, but it is surgery, so there's downtime involved and it can be expensive.
Right. And there's also PRP, right? Platelet-rich plasma. That one sounds a bit like science fiction.
It does, but it's a real treatment, and it's gaining traction. They draw a small amount of your blood, spin it in a centrifuge to separate out the platelet-rich plasma, which is full of growth factors, and then inject that plasma back into your scalp to stimulate hair growth.
So they're using your own blood to help regrow your hair. Wild. It seems like there are so many options these days, from medications to procedures. It's a lot to consider. But what if you're not ready for all that? What if you're looking for more natural approaches? Are there things you can do in your everyday life to make a difference?
There absolutely are. Like we talked about earlier, so much of it comes down to those healthy habits. Diet, exercise, stress management, sleep, it all plays a role.
So it's the same old advice we always hear, but this time it's for our hair. Vegetables, get some rest, don't stress out.
It's true. But seriously, specific nutrients are particularly important for hair health. The Health Chronicles episode mentioned biotin, iron, and vitamin D as being crucial, so make sure you're getting enough of those.
Okay, noted. I'll add those to my grocery list. What about natural remedies, though? Are there any that are actually worth trying?
You know, there's been some buzz about certain oils like rosemary and castor oil. There's some evidence they might strengthen hair and potentially promote growth.
So maybe incorporate those into your hair care routine.
Yeah, it could do worth a shot, but not a miracle cure, but they're natural, and they might give your hair a little extra boost.
It's amazing how much depth there is to this topic. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Hair loss, it's not just about vanity. It's about our confidence, our well-being, how we move through the world. And the fact that there are so many potential causes, it makes you realize that finding the right solution, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
I completely agree. There's
No.
magic bullet, and what works for one person might not work for another. It really highlights the need for a more personalized approach to treatment, you know?
Right, like taking into account your individual genetics, lifestyle, medical history, all of that.
Exactly. It's about figuring out the root cause of your hair loss and then tailoring the treatment plan to your specific needs.
That's a great point. Maybe that's the future of hair loss treatment, getting really personalized, really targeted in our approach.
I think so. They'll be a game changer for a lot of people.
Definitely food for thought.
Absolutely.